Hello and welcome to Asterix and the Secret Weapon. I am Noodle, that is Scummer, and we are going to be having a good look at this book. I'm not sure what else to say in that introduction
I think you can tell from the way Noodle introduced this that we're probably not really looking forward to this one today.
Yeah, we're not.
This one, this one definitely leaves a bad taste in the mouth. We've done some things. There's always been some controversial things in here, these books, and some bad takes.
I mean, I will say there was one that we put off for weeks and weeks because it just didn't feel. We weren't ready to do it.
But
and it wasn't a good one. But this one's worse.
We've sort of said that, look, even though it was difficult with the Great Crossing, we got there eventually, but we sort of said, now we've never shirked away from the controversies in this book, though, even though it's been tempting to in these books. It's been very tempting to do that. Now, have we hidden some panels or two on certain things and tried to skip over them? Yes. The main thing is that a lot of it is people don't necessarily want to see the images, and we'd be retreading over old ground every time if we showed it every time, we'd be retreading old grounds. And there's only so many times you can repeat yourself on
racism is bad.
Racism is bad, but here's how you can tackle it. I will actually say racism is not the issues with this one at all.
It's not at all. This one is
the only good thing you can say about this.
Yeah, and I will say, hats off to you, Scummer, because before I even picked up this book to read it, I had a message from Scummer saying to me, "You're not going to like this one, Noodle." Yeah. And, Scummer said that to me a couple of times before. He said, "You're not going to be too keen on this one. You're going to have issues with this one." So I thought, okay, it's going to be one or two panels. The pirates are going to pop up. I can deal with it. And then I started reading it. And it goes from 0 to 100 in one panel and stays there. I think you put it, Scummy, you said, that there's a lot of toxic masculinity and misogyny in this one. And I thought, okay, but it's a book about, a couple of guys who take a magic potion to make themselves stronger. The toxic masculinity is kind of implied.
Yeah.
Like I said, and then I read it.
Yeah, and what we got to say about what we're dealing with in this book is just some very, very bad takes on second wave and early third wave feminism here.
Yeah, we are. We're also bad takes. At this point as well, this book was released in 1991. I cannot defend this as being of its time, because 1991 is post second wave feminism of the 70s and 80s. Third wave feminism is just kicking off, and honestly, some of the panels in this book look like they're from sort of the 1920s, arguing against the suffragette movement, asking for votes.
Yeah,
this is really, really inappropriate, especially in something aimed at children.
Yeah,
it's incredibly reactionary.
I feel this plays into a lot of kind of like fears that sadly do still exist today, to a certain degree, that the fear of the empowerment of women is going to somehow mean the disempowerment of men. And I think this is almost how feminism is kind of portrayed in this. And then, to be honest, there's not even to me, till you get towards the end of this, and there's not even anything redeeming because of the way certain things happen at the end. And you're like, okay, this is just pure sexism now, and
I mean, I would wonder if I read it when I was the age it was aimed at in the late 90s, if I wouldn't have taken it a bit better. But even then, I think it would have left a nasty taste in my mouth. So that's all your fair warning from us.
You've been warned.
There are other things as we go along as well that we will be giving you fair warning for as we come to them, because there's a certain language, etc., that's really not appropriate anymore. But no. we'll get to that when we come to it. So, as we said, no. It's quite annoying as well, because this is the one time you can get the scan of it, and it's actually a high quality scan.
It is actually the best quality of all the scans we got.
Yeah.
Actually, so in that respect, this has been because we were obviously getting these through Kindles, but it seems that after the Goscinny books, a lot of the Uderzo ones are not on Kindle at the moment, and so we're finding them through PDFs everywhere. So
yeah,
which is what we've been doing the last month or two, to be honest. So
yeah, as I put it, as I said, it starts at 100 and it stays there. This is probably the mildest commentary in the entire book, which, it starts out stereotypically, kids in the playground, girls can't play, all girls do is cry.
Yeah.
At this point, you can almost forgive it because it's the kids saying it.
Yeah.
But you become aware very quickly that all the kids are doing is parroting their parents' ideas.
Yeah. Well, you get there that the kid goes running off to there, and you get the thing like that. Look, this first comment here, like father, like son. Your dad's upset the whole village with his rotten fish. And like,
yeah,
look at me. If I was your husband, you'd what? So of course, unhygienic.
And put it, the ableism in there right from the start with the boy with the lisp. Which is not, again. And this insinuation that's made here is, well, to be honest, I'm not surprised he smacked him one with a hammer in the next scene, because it's really, if I was your husband, you'd what? Exactly, you'd what?
Yeah.
You can imagine what's being insinuated there.
So okay, the third thing I think here is you get to the next bit. Cacophonix here is, I think, kind of getting the blame for a lot of this. Bit unfairly, actually, I'd say, but
yeah, because I think in all of this, Cacophonix is the one example of a character who's not entirely toxic.
Yeah, although that kind of somewhat gets ruined in this, to be honest. Although I will say there is one, if there is one panel I really love, it is going to be coming up in a little bit with Cacophonix, and I really love it. So Cacophonix, as well as being the bard, of course, he is in charge of the education of the kids in the village. And the women are all coming to saying, we're removing our children from this school. It's got a poor reputation. What's more, we've appointed a new teacher from Leticia who she's going to see to their education, especially their musical education.
So, of course. And then we have, this is, druids and bards are qualified to teach school children. I can see the point that's being made of you would hope so. But technically anyone with enough ego and enough money could set up a school.
Yeah.
So, it's...
only druids and bards are allowed to... Yeah. And then, of course, we get to the next, so a woman can't be a bard?
No, she's bad from being a bard. Yeah. And, even the puns are tainted. I think if that was an individual panel in any other book, it would have been funny.
Yeah.
In the context of this book, not so much.
Yeah. So Cacophonix goes storming up. He's been gets a black eye from one of the women. Sorry, oh dear. And he's like, poor old Cacophonix seems to really mean it. He basically said he's leaving the village. Obelix is like, well, no woman could replace me. Carrying menace is a very delicate art job.
Yeah, I will say as well one thing, and we'll address this again later on. The depiction of violence between the sexes is there's issues there too.
There is a talking point, a massive talking point on this later on, and just to warn people.
But yeah, I think I can kind of get behind the humor in this last panel of he thinks carving menhirs is a delicate job and therefore a woman couldn't do it.
Yeah.
When quite clearly the issue with being a menhir salesman is the weight of the damn things.
I like that. Now it's the thing that he's saying. Cacophonix is planning to leave us over a woman bard. What, you mean he's in love? No, he's just upset that he's being replaced by a woman from outside the village.
I mean, to that extent, regardless of whether it's a man or a woman that they're bringing in, I can understand why Cacophonix is upset.
Yeah,
but it goes from being professional rivalry to blatant sexism and
vital statistics. Very quickly. Vital statistics. His first comment here is, "Oh, I have every faith in us. We'll see that woman barred off in double quick time."
Yeah.
Yeah. Meanwhile, we must prepare. We must persuade. So the men actually go and try and actually persuade Cacophonix to stay. Now, I think really there's not going to be many really funny jokes in this, but there's a couple in the next panels that I will say this is a good one. A couple of ones I like, and the whole village is asking you, farewell, ungrateful. Please do the Latin there, Noodle.
I knew you were going to ask me to do that.
Oh, damn, yes.
Qualis artifex de Nero.
What an artist perishes within me. And I like to Latin saying wrongly attributed to Nero.
Yes. So, yes, that's a P, not a D, Pereira, as in perishes. Yes, wrongly attributed to Nero. I do like how these books have gone from Caesar being nervous about Brutus to now historical attributations being actually belonging to these characters instead of the historical
I do for historical context on that is supposedly what Nero's final words were. I think most people know that story already, but if anyone isn't getting the historical reference, that's what it is.
Just on in defense of Nero, not a great statesman, by far not a great politician, but quite clearly someone who was born to take part in the arts and very much of an artistic mind. This an excellent example of in history of why people who are more interested in the arts and the creative arts probably should keep their noses out of politics.
One thing I should say about Nero, I think Nero is kind of very much a result of you put a 16-year-old boy from a seriously messed up home and suddenly make him the most powerful man in the world. You're asking for trouble.
Yeah, you are.
Really.
You really are. You are asking for trouble. And the fact that all Nero wanted to do was play his music and act in his plays, he could have been a lot worse.
I mean, he wasn't an angel, don't get me wrong.
No, he wasn't an angel, and he did a lot of the stories about him are propaganda.
Especially especially he fiddled while Rome burns. That is bollocks, as far as I can tell.
That is utter bollocks. He wasn't even in Rome at the time it burned, whether he was playing his fiddle and didn't know about it.
I did read some accounts that as soon as he heard, he actually rushed back to Rome.
He did, and he dropped a fortune trying to rebuild Rome afterwards as well.
Yeah. So
anyway. Granted, he took a large part of it for his own palace, but the rest of it as well, he dropped a hell of a lot of money trying to get everything fixed and get the housing back and everything else. So yes, as Rings just put in the chat, we're going to side-eye the story keepers for this one.
Yeah.
That is not a historically
now I gotta say, we got to get to the next sort of panel here. I love this. This is one thing in this book I love. Look, just to show you fully automatic. Look, just show you how fond of you we are. We're even willing to let you sing. Oh no, you won't get me to sing. Oh no, you finally, Cacophonix beats him up, gets him back. It's so damn elder times, because it's always fully automatics that beats him up, and when he finally he gets some revenge.
Yeah, a little bit of revenge, and beats him into the ground, quite literally.
And to be fair, I actually say that the last two books, the last one we covered and this one, is the first time we've really sort of seen Cacophonix stand up for himself and actually show that he's willing to stand up and fight as well. So
and I mean, again, this is one of the examples in this book that I'm not going to comment on the violence, because this is standard for these books, and it's nice to see Cacophonix get his own back.
This is long overdue. I will say that it's long overdue. Cacophonix got to get him.
Yeah. So he's going to retire to his second home in the heart of the forest to meditate on man's ingratitude. I will say Cacophonix is a snide little so-and-so. He always has been, and that's one. Yeah.
Okay. All of a sudden, meet the female bard here.
And look how she's introduced immediately, the comment that's passed, and again with the language. We're immediately not supposed to sympathize with this woman.
Yeah, her original is this the village of loonies?
Yeah. And I wish I could say that's the word that's as bad as the ableist language get. It's not. Which we will get to.
Loonies is mild.
You can understand it in a children's book from the 90s that the word loonies appearing. What's going to appear later, not so much.
Okay. Looks like it's not always the best to replace them. So immediately there's a vital statistics, and this woman are not on good terms, and she said sorry, but that's how they've been describing your opinion in the which is a kind
Mancio, consider it as a motel.
Yeah, kind of a roadside inn sort of thing.
B&B motel, that kind of thing. That's how they've been describing you since I started asking away in Lutetia. So
Obelix is giggling like hell here. It's just she introduced herself as Bravara. Bravara. Tell your hysterical friend to stop that silly gigging, or I'll lose my temper. Asterix says, please forgive my friend. He's never seen a woman wearing the breeches before.
And then off she goes.
Yeah, these leggings are all the rage in Lutetia,
Yeah. And of course Obelix thinks and then again.
Yeah.
She's a nasty. Do you know what? Her attitude is very Turnbull. Was it Turnbull from Matilda?
Trunchbull.
Trunchbull, that's the one.
Yeah.
She's got that kind of attitude on her.
She's got that sort of vibe to her.
Yeah, she's got a real Trunchbull vibe. As much as I don't like this entire thing, I don't particularly like her either. She's an example of and I think it's done deliberately. She comes across.
You're not meant to like this character.
Seem very militant.
She
but not just.
I said this to Noodle in like DMs, that it's almost what I feel Aders has done here is what I sometimes see some certain big name right leaning YouTubers do, where they to demonize feminists, they will pick up the most they will single out and put and do videos on the most extreme and extreme people within that will identify with themselves as feminists, the real sectarians, the ones who will argue that like Sargon tends to do with Anita Sarkeesian, for example.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think everyone, I don't know anyone really that thinks Anita Sarkeesian is a good example of a feminist. But it's when it's when you take someone like that who's pretty much on the extremes and is a bit out there, and I'm just using Anita as an example and holding them up. This is what feminists are like, and this is still done today.
It is, and she's and I'm sure we've all heard it, although there's no evidence of it happening. I don't think she's the stereotypical bra burner. That's what she is. She's even she's butch. She's everything that's wrong with feminism, and it's just no, she's not. She's just herself, but she's also a thoroughly dislikable person.
She's
like even if you agree with her politics.
She's a caricature of what a lot of right wingers to reactionary types to me think a feminist is.
And as I said, she's definitely a straw man. She's been built up deliberately for Uderzo and the characters to beat down.
Yes,
that's the only role in this book.
Absolutely, yeah. That's precisely what her character is. Because it's immediately. You're not supposed to side with her. She immediately comes off as a militant, bit bitchy. You're not meant to like this character.
Yeah. And she immediately comes in by humiliating Obelix over his mathematics.
Yeah. And basically he can't do his times table. So she basically says, you're coming to class tomorrow with the kids to learn. Yeah. And I got to admit, Asterix is actually secretly having a bit of a laugh about this in the corner there. But
yeah. Now, but again, it's very immediate that this is nothing more than a bit of a pissing contest.
So the women welcome her then. They introduce themselves. I'm Impedimenta, the chief's wife, Mrs. Unhygienics, Mrs. Fully Awesome, Mrs. Geriatrics. Just call me. Yeah.
This again is appointed. They're all Mrs. They're all defined by who their husband is.
Yeah.
He's her first name.
Which we know. For the life of me, I'm still not sure that I've actually come across the name of Geriatrics' wife. If I have, I've forgotten it. Yeah. I know Bacteria is the name of Unhygienics' wife. I can't remember what I've got a feeling. I'm not even sure. This might be the first time we've seen Fully Automatics' wife in the books as well.
No, we've seen her a couple of times because she was introduced with the joke of old man with a woman like her. Which at the time was funny.
Fully Automatics' wife, not
Fully Automatics, Geriatrics' wife. I don't think, except for her appearing in the odd panel when he stood at his stall.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know her name. I think she's had a couple of speech bubbles. That's about it.
But they okay.
I will as well. The way she's drawn this character, she looks like a Who from Whoville.
Yeah, but it's like the nose is turned up as well. It's like there's an air of superiority about her.
Yeah.
Like I said, this is all to me to make her look
as unlikable as possible. Yeah.
So they got her really to, which is Cacophonix's old place. So they pretty much
and the arrogance on her. She wants an official residence. So again, it's.
I like this. You know me, the chief here. You know me, Asterix. I'm not a misogynist or xenophobic, but I don't like the way that foreign woman something.
I'm not misogynist or xenophobic, but I don't like that foreign woman.
I'm not racist, but defense in here.
And I mean, this is very telling that that's there. It's almost this is the panel that was trying to make the book redeemable, but it's failed. And here she goes with the.
I like the cleaning the dirt off there, and they're all musical notes.
That's a nice visual pun.
It's a nice visual pun.
Yeah.
But now the chief student's wife, they're having a welcoming part. There's going to be a party in her honor for the new bard, and of course, obviously, he's not keen on the idea. But he said, I dare say he,
Yeah, and I think that there's this clash here between Impedimenta, who we know is a bit of a snob, whose character has always been a bit of a snob, and he's therefore quite looking forward to dealing with someone from the city, a bard from the city.
Well, she's mentioned this before, that her brother-in-law is successful in the big city, which is modern day Paris. So,
and you can sort of understand where vital statistics is coming from. My tongue's not working today. When he says, he prefers the company of the coarse and cultured boors who chose him as chief.
Yeah.
As a northerner in the UK, I will say, if someone says to me, would you rather deal with, those people in their swanky cocktail bars in London or a bunch of northerners in a pub? Well, give me a bunch of northerners in a pub anytime. Tell them to bring the sheepdogs.
I'm from the south as well. To be fair, I'm from the south as well. I'd sooner deal with a bunch of Yorkshiremen in the pub than a bunch of Londoners.
Yeah.
I can deal with working class Londoners or whatever. But I know what you
I can't deal with yuppies.
I can't deal with yuppies. But to be honest, I can deal with. I've said before, this is a personal thing with me. I can deal with London for maybe 2 or 3 days, and I've had enough. So that's just me.
Yeah, no, and as I say, Ring and I went there for a week and a half, and I needed a proper good strong drink with a decent head on it when I got home.
I spent a year there one night.
Oof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I look this like this. So what's about? Where's your shield of office? One of my shield bearers has let me down. Tired out. The other flatly refuses to carry me alone. I think I need I need a spare shield bearer.
Mm-hmm.
You do that. The shield is always breaking down at the crucial moment. And then we get again here. What could have been a good point here is instantly ruined 2 panels later.
Yeah.
Okay.
Although you can take this as a satire, I think. This.
Yeah, you can possibly, because it's like I didn't think there could be women bards, and it says we are entering the modern era of the ancient world, Asterix, where anything can happen. So it's only right for a woman to be considered the equal of a man, with all the aspirations and ambitions hitherto denied her. You mean women could be druids too? Oh, come on, Asterix, be serious.
Yeah, and to me that is that would be a very good satire on its own, and a great discussion point of it's people who are in principle support an idea, but
that could have been a funny joke if it wasn't for the rest of this book, to be fair.
Yeah, that would have been I still got a bit of a chuckle out of that, even with the rest of the book, but it is, again, it gets tainted very quickly.
Yeah. So so they're all because she's in the big city, and then and they're saying, do you think oriental jeans or leggings would flatter my figure.
Yeah.
And this is where, again, where I get a little, because of what's coming up later on with this as well, with misogyny, with the women being obsessed about their clothes and their looks, kind of.
Yeah.
Thing.
And I mean, this is something that is recurring in the Asterix books, this vanity of women, especially in Pedmenta and the wives. In this one, again, it's taken too far.
With someone like Geriatrix's wife or something being a bit like that, you might be able to understand it, the way she's sort of drawn. But, whereas all the women characters are a bit like that, it's a bit, And you'll have to sit. So they ask her to sing. And I do like this, what she brings a drum out. And I love this. Armorica the Beautiful. I like that.
Yeah, this is quite,
That's quite funny.
Armorica the Beautiful. That's quite funny.
And then right, okay, we're gonna have to give the trigger warnings coming up here, because
yeah.
I will. You okay with me saying the word in the panel? But this is really.
Yeah, I think we'll say it once and move on, because I don't particularly want to hear it repeated.
No, okay. So trigger warnings coming up for what's about to be said. Okay. All the men are laughing at her, and the women are like, really like, you're being rude, and like Philistines, rustic boors, and Pedimenta's trying to calm her down, sort of like, hey, look, look, it was very nice. Don't take no notice of them. Here goes. I know. I don't know is how you can put up with these retarded barbarians. There you go. We warned you. That we're not saying that word.
This is the comment. We're not repeating it, and I appreciate you saying it, because
I thought it needed to be said to give this the full context. I don't like.
Why we're so uncomfortable with this, as we can probably tell.
I'm going to say a few things about that. Now, like, that word in itself is been at the center of a little bit of controversy within our own community. The way it's, I mean, maybe
it's quite obvious it was used as an insult here. It's not used for any other reason. We're not talking about breaking speeds here.
One reason I might be prepared to let this go a little bit is this is 1991. I can tell you now, at that age, living at that age, being a young boy at that age, that was almost, the R word was seen as maybe being a little bit more polite than some of the other terms that were being thrown around, which I won't say. There was a very common word beginning with S to describe people.
To the point where that word was used in the title of an organization that claimed to represent people with learning difficulties.
Another one that began with the letter M was used a lot.
Yeah.
The R word was actually seen as a little bit more polite than.
Yeah, and I will say I am old enough to remember. Scummer and I are quite different ages, but I am old enough to remember being a kid and throwing that word around in the playground.
Yeah.
When we didn't know any better.
Yeah.
And that would have only been a few years after this. So to that extent, I would say it explains that language. It doesn't justify it, but it does explain it.
I think Ring says, this kind of feels like a massive step back from Asterix and Son. It does.
Yeah, this is a huge step back from Asterix and Son.
Yeah.
To the point, I think any goodwill gained by Asterix and Son is entirely lost.
And this is what
that kind of language is just not. We don't condone it whatsoever.
Anyway, I've said the word once to put it in its full, and I did that really just to give its full brevity, really. But that is the only time I am intending on using that. But anyway, should we try and move on, because otherwise I fear that we're going to spend the whole 2 hours of this stream ranting and not getting through the book if we're not careful.
Yeah, if we're not careful. So now this joke's quite. This one again is another joke that, especially following on from that, but in any other book would have been amusing.
Yeah.
You know, the snoring of the cockerel whose adenoids are giving him trouble.
Yeah. And you know, like she starts singing it, not just like Cacophonix kind of used to do, or something. He would sing and annoy the whole village.
But because it's her, they're actually taking it.
I did like, yeah, she's not, but I like the thing. I did like there is the fact that there's a little follow on from the last book we did, much the same as Cacophonix, except it's not raining. So I'm glad they kept that little joke alive. Actually, Vital Statistics goes and takes an axe to the treehouse. You got male chauvinist bore, you know. She kind of is, to be fair, but
yeah.
Puppy's not happy about the tree.
Of course, he's not. Then next day we've got
kids go to school along with Obelix. Asterix is going to go out hunting with Dogmatix. Dogmatix initially wants to come with Obelix, and dogs are forbidden at school. And he starts growling, you know. So he'll go off with Asterix for the day instead, I suppose. And I love that, like, he's got this bag there. Well, that's my lunch bundle. That's not forbidden, I hope. And I do actually, because I can kind of picture Obelix in the next thing there. She's going through the times tables and, miss, please, Obelix is trying to get at my lunch bundle. I was only going to have a taste. That's all. That's kind of in character for Obelix, to be fair. That's not too bad of a joke.
That's pretty in character for him there.
Yeah.
And so she sets him lines, and then so we go to Rome.
Yeah.
Miss Manlius Clapham Omnibus. Do you want to explain this one?
What? Sorry, I missed
the character's name. Manlius Clapham Omnibus.
No, I don't. I think I might have missed the joke here.
The Clapham Omnibus, the omnibus as it is, it's one of those things that it's a British cultural comment, I think, on our public transport.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah.
So what's going on here is I don't want any witnesses to this business. You understand? It's just the existence of your century. If the existence of your century became no, I should be vulnerable to my enemies and the laughing stock of the Senate. So effectively, so he's saying there's a new century of legionaries is kind of what we can get from this, but it's the secret weapon being sent to Gaul in this ship.
Yeah. And then back now in Gaul, Asterix is on a hunt.
Yeah, the Boers is always divert them towards some Romans.
Yeah, and the Romans are running too.
Yeah. Romans get a thumping from Asterix.
Yeah.
And they said, don't worry, look, our relief force is going to be coming soon. Now we get to back
to this. And this is what I mean by she's a straw man built up to be torn down.
Friends, sisters, countrywomen, throw off your chains.
Yeah. There's always the joke about, there is a serious political point to when certain books, certain speeches get altered to make the, as part of an analysis, to make the gendered terms in it the other way around, or neutral. And there is usually a point to be made about, it's usually as part of gender studies that's done. But this is quite obviously she's designed. You're supposed to laugh at her here.
Yeah. This is a bit like that meme going around the internet a few years ago. The woman who kept shouting patriarchy, that protest. If you remember that one.
Yeah.
It's very much that sort of, it's a bit like that meme in how you feminists are kind of caricatured to be like this.
Yeah.
And I would say, I'm not saying there are not some feminists out there who are that bloody extreme. There are, but it does not represent the entire, movement at all. It's a fringe of a fringe.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in and around feminist and socialist movements for at least 10 years. And I will say, hand on heart, I've probably met 2 people like this.
Oh yeah, I've been
in
about
that entire time.
I'll say I've been around, like, well, am I now? Like 15 to 20 years I've been around this, and maybe about a dozen people tops have I ever come across like this in real life.
They do tend to group together, and to be honest, the
I
will
say at least half of them were on one protest.
Yeah. And I will say as well, at least of the 2 I met, at least one of them wasn't a feminist stereotype, was more of a socialist stereotype.
Yeah.
We do get, especially in socialism, we do get a lot of quite, I'm going to say ardent socialists.
I will say I've run into, I won't mention their names, but I there's certainly one on Twitter I've ran across who's got a fairly, it's got a little bit of a name in the community, but I won't mention her name because I don't like to give her an.
We don't want to cause any trouble.
I don't want to cause any trouble, and I don't want to give her any attention and any clout. I'll put in the private chat of who I'm on about, Noodle, so you can.
Yeah, because I'm not aware of this person, but I'd like to be able to mute them so I never become aware of them. But yeah, in all my time, I think there was only one person I ever really met and looked at and went, if you're voting Labour, I should probably be voting Tory. Like they were that far left wing. But again, that's in 10 years of activism. And that was student activism, university activism, where everyone's a bit extreme and everyone's figuring themselves out.
I mean, to be honest, I mean, I'll say you've not really experienced the exotic of the left until you've come across the Spartacus League, though.
Yeah. I think my response there says it all, and I'm not going to comment further.
You're aware of who they are.
I am well aware of the Spartacus League, yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, moving on from this, she comes back to the school now, and Obelix is still working on his lines.
Yeah. So gets to go home. They go back to have some dinner. Talk about school. I'm sorry, I'm rushing through this a little, Noodle, because I've conscious we're 45 minutes into this stream already, and we've not gotten very far into this book.
We're not even a third.
So I think we're going to have to skip. We're going to have to be a little bit fast and loose with the story.
I mean, this joke's quite nice. We've got
a lot of. Yeah, it's just because we've got an awful lot of talking points in this. So I'm a little ahead of you. So
yeah. So we've got this joke here, which I quite like. Obelix in blank verse quoting, mangling Shakespeare. And Asterix saying, well, school must agree with you, which is nice. It's a nice joke. And then evening classes. This one, again, it would have been nice, and then they ruined it in the last panel. The evening classes are on throwing up champagne and freeing the slave to quell the pranks of those who produce. He clearly wasn't listening.
Well, to be fair, Obelix normally is the one person in the room who doesn't get it. So I can forgive that a little.
Yeah, I can forgive it a little, but it's quite clearly it's designed to be,
Asterix obviously is a bit afraid that this woman's sowing discord amongst them. Get a fix is let's not judge too hastily.
And then you see all the women walking out on their husbands.
They're walking out on their husband. They're refusing to do the chores anymore. They're all wearing breeches. They're not wearing their dresses anymore.
Forcing their daughters into it.
Yeah.
Forcing their daughters into it. I should put emphasis on forcing.
Yeah.
Like this girl is screaming that she doesn't want to wear breeches.
There's one decent-ish little joke at the bottom of this. Impedimenta's taken the shield, and she's got she's got two women shield bearing, and I do like the little thought bubble of, so this is a woman's place in Gaulish society today. That's mildly humorous.
It's mildly humorous, yeah. And this with vital statistics here. You might be wearing the breeches, but don't think you can emulate proud masculine bearing while he's sat with his feet in a bowl looking anything but proud or...
Yeah.
And
basically, so they come to the thing of, we got to get rid of her. We got to tell her she's redundant and she needs to go.
Yeah.
I love this. I can think of only one warrior in the village proud and brave enough to break that news to her. You, Asterix. I was like, oh no, why does it have to be me? I'm no prouder and braver than the next band, and I'm not cut out for this, you know.
And Obelix now using what Asterix said about him going to school back against him. Please don't complicate matters.
Yeah.
And Asterix is not amused.
Goes off there, and he's why'd it have to be me? I mean, I'm a bachelor. None of this has anything to do with me.
Yeah.
Asterix goes to meet her. Oh, you're the little fellow who isn't afraid of the big boys.
Yeah.
You know, I like you. I wanted to work with you myself.
Yeah.
The thing is, I have to tell you, he's trying to tell. She's hitting on him.
She's hitting on him hard. Yeah, she is.
I mean, not even. She's not even being even a bit subtle about this. Now, I don't think there's anything wrong necessarily with a woman making a first move on anything like that, but this is like over the top.
This also as well. Yeah, no, that was, and quite clearly she was doing that with a goal. That wasn't her just hitting on him.
Yeah.
I've just spotted a comment in the chat from DOG. I just received some bad news and I have to go.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Take care of yourself. Sorry to hear it. Yeah, you can always catch up with us later. Take care of yourself. We wish you all the best.
You take care of yourself, mate. That's thanks for popping by.
Thanks for dropping by. We appreciate it. So yeah, and this is the first instance of her. So she does it on this page.
Yeah.
Twice. First, the way she pats his back, which is clearly not.
There's more to
yeah, and then she picks him up.
Well, yeah.
And then that follows.
Well, I'm waiting, and straight away she's like, maybe you could lend me your hut, and Asterix is yelling at her straight away. Basically, it's like never get the idea. Basically, no.
He's seen through her. No,
absolutely not. She picks up, what a proud look, put me down,
and then
smacks him on the arse on the way.
Yeah, which I know what comes later, so I'm going to hold my comment.
I think we should save the comments about this for what comes later.
Yeah.
Because that's a massive talking point.
Over. Yeah.
This is not he's gone away very angry.
And I mean, at this point, we can imagine what word he's filling in here with these symbols. And I don't blame him in the slightest after what she just did. She's very lucky to have left with both hands working.
Yeah.
And they're waiting.
And well, is she going? Asterix punches him for that. It's just like,
yeah,
I don't want any part of this. You wash your own dirty linen. Basically, leave me out of this.
yeah.
Meanwhile, in the village, in the forest, Cacophonix decides he's going to sing in peace, and instantly the rain comes down and lightning burns his new tree.
See, this is a nice
in the rain joke.
Yeah.
Okay, we got pirates. So I don't believe we have to censor them for a change.
Yeah, no, I don't believe we do.
They're on the high, but there's not much to this. They think they're going to take this Roman ship, which goes straight through them. This is the secret weapon coming to that we know about. Barbarians, and so
one more Latin tag and I'll drown you. Okay.
Yeah.
And then back now in Gaul.
Yes.
So.
Sorry.
And now she's trying to she's trying to get Impedimenta to take over.
Yeah. And does seem to be getting in her ear, because a couple of panels later, she just yells, "I am not your slave."
Yeah, I'm not your. Yeah.
And she's she's straight away saying, "From now on, I shall sit on the village council too. I'm the chief's wife. I'm the chief's wife, right? But I'm the chief around here."
And I mean, we have joked in the past that Impedimenta wears the trousers in this relationship.
Yeah.
They kind of comes to a head here in all the wrong ways. It's perfectly possible to have an entirely healthy relationship where you know there is a bit of a power dynamic going on, but not like this. Not like this. She crosses a line here. Because the fact that he tries to enter his own home and leaves with a black eye, she crosses a line.
Yeah.
And this is one thing we don't see in any of the other books. We never see the men raise hands to their wives, ever. They do their bit of fighting with the Romans and with each other, but never to their wives. Not in this way.
It's vital statistics is basically he's had enough as well. He leaves the village now. Of course, the solution could have easily been here, or if this book was progressive at all, that women would have been allowed to sit on a council at the end of this, which I don't think happens. So that which could have maybe you probably could have got a better conclusion out of this, I think, as well.
Yeah. But this is the moment he goes from henpecked to frankly abused, and
and he's off. He's not taking it.
And the thing is, other characters are seeing it quite clearly and brushing it off.
Long live Chief Impedimenta. The women have raised it. So she's and straight away she's she's going up to Obelix saying, everyone's talent must be utterly utilized. In future, you'll do hunting and cook our new chief's white meals. And again, so this is what we're getting, and Obelix is getting. This is what I mean about this being what I said, irrational take on feminism, that it means the men get completely disempowered, which is not the goal of feminism.
No,
the goal is equality. The goal is equality.
Yeah, the goal is equality, not supremacy.
Yes. That is what we're getting.
To an extent, it's not even equality; it's equity we're looking for.
Yeah.
The two terms that are very similar, but don't mean the same thing.
You need to build up equity before you can actually get equality. Is the thing?
And we are still in a phase where we're looking for equity. But this is just the way she behaves. She's constantly insulting him. She's decided, she's in control. Essentially, what's happened here is Impedimenta is a puppet government.
It's basically she's a coup d'etat. Is what's happened here.
It's a coup d'etat here.
And the next thing, so they try to get some sort of process going. Look, we're going to take a free vote on whether impedimental or vital statistics is going to be chief. Okay.
Yeah.
So he's organising the whole pebbles in the cask thing with different coloured pebbles, which is pretty much similar to ancient Athenian style of democracy here. This is kind of what they did. Straight away, why make it so complicated? Simple show of hands. There's a reason we have secret ballots, okay?
Yeah.
Generally, and for things like this, vote by hand. Who will want my vote? So all the women raise their hands. Who votes against? Only Asterix. All the men don't want to vote against their wives.
Yeah. They don't want to vote against their wives, and then she's now hitting on Asterix again.
Right now, okay.
I'm going to leave it there for now until we get to where we're talking about.
Okay. Do you want me to cut? So
she's hitting on him. He's realised she's here to try and take over the village.
Yeah. That's your little game, is it?
She picks him up again, and with this really infantilizing, patronising language.
Look, Okay, I've got to the panel in question, the couple of panels in question.
And then she kisses him, and he immediately smacks her one.
Thumps her.
And I have to say, hats off to Asterix for this one. She deserved that.
Okay, yeah, and this is where I suppose where I felt we have to make a comment on this. Now, obviously, violence against women is not cool. Okay,
violence full stop's not cool.
Violence not stops too cool. However, sexual harassment and sexual assault is out of order as well, no matter who is doing it to who. Whether it is men doing it to women, women doing it to men, men and women doing it to each other.
Yeah.
Here's the question, and I don't know what people in the chat might think. Was Asterix within his rights here? Was he within his rights to do what he did? I will say the very next panel, he instantly regrets it. Instantly regrets what he's done. But I might throw that out to the chat as well. I don't know. I mean, this was uncomfortable reading. This whole book is, but this bit in particular was.
Yeah, no, she's clearly built up a sexual harassment campaign against him for pages and pages at this point.
Yeah,
and she's finally gone too far.
He snapped. He's had a moment where he has snapped.
He snapped, yeah. And for me, I would have snapped a lot sooner. As I said 2 pages ago, when she smacked him on the ass, she wouldn't have left with both working hands if she'd have done that to me.
I mean, I've been in a situation. I'll say now, okay, have I thrown a fist? No. Have I pushed a woman away from me before? Yes, when it was unwanted. When it was unwanted physical attention, shall we say? And especially as I was engaged at the time, and so a woman trying to stick her tongue down my throat right in front of my ex who was there at the time, was seriously unwanted.
No, I mean, to be fair, he's made it obvious he's uncomfortable. He's told her no about his house, and she wrote roughshod over that.
No means no.
Yeah.
That works.
For me,
that works.
He's perfectly entitled to this reaction.
That works, and that I said, because a lot of the time, obviously, we talk about with what way men can be with women at times. No means no. No means no. Both ways or any which way here.
Yeah, and I think that could have been a great message to send had Asterix not responded with, "Oh, I'm so sorry." I personally don't think Asterix has anything to apologise for here.
Yeah, but I kind of also get that at the same time, you're not trying to. I mean,
you're
I
not
suppose
trying to promote violence, and it is kids. I understand that.
Yeah,
but
and
there is a line, and she has well crossed it.
Yeah, this could have been handled. There could have been a good point made here. He's apologised. She goes off, unscrupulously. You know, what
and
comes
her
up in it? Can I say?
Here is. This is very. We've all seen cases of abusers behaving like this towards their partners, and it is very, very.
I like Asterix. He feels terrible about what he's done. He struck a work, and now this is unfortunately where again there was an opportunity. I feel to make a decent point here that was seriously blown with what is said by Obelix.
Yeah.
Hey, between us, that wouldn't have come over you if it was the lovely Panacea. Now, see Asterix the Legionary. For those who remember being here for Asterix the Legionary, Panacea was obviously a very beautiful young woman that Obelix was infatuated with, had a huge crush on her. In other words, this woman's a bit ugly. It's all right.
Yeah.
It's the message there.
And the message there is being sent, you know, you wouldn't have minded if she'd have been beautiful. Yeah, that's not the point. And Asterix does respond to that of Obelix, you're being silly. That's not the point. Asterix was violated.
Yeah, that. He does say you're being silly. It could have been followed up on.
Yeah, it could have been.
Because that's a good example. I mean, that's a good example of a toxic masculinity that we sort of
we are slowly growing out of as a society, but it's
which
still
we
there.
should be, and that is like, hey, you know, hey, she's a real stunning girl or whatever. Hey, you should be bloody thankful that she hits on you like that.
Yeah, and I mean that's something that is used on people who are victims now, but also it has that undercurrent of, oh, you know, especially teenage boys wouldn't say no.
I mean, there was a story it must have been a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, about a female school teacher who had sexually abused one of her students, and I will say, yes, you sort of picture her. She is definitely what would be considered. She's definitely what people would consider to be very, very attractive.
Yeah.
And I make the point of sexual assault of a minor is still sexual assault of a minor, and because I saw the article and I had someone comment, you wouldn't have fucking complained. I'm like, fuck off.
That's not the point.
Fuck off. You are not getting the fucking point here.
It doesn't matter whether you would have complained or not.
First of all, in that particular case, we are talking about a minor for a start. Second of all, even if we're not talking about a fucking minor.
Yeah, I mean, even to the point, I think this lad was actually already 16. But that's not the point.
Yeah. And I do feel that this is an example. I think this is a symptom of toxic masculinity that you will hear from both. That it's something that seems to hear it's so societally acceptable that you hear from both men and women towards men in that situation of, hey, you're a guy, you should like it.
Yeah.
And I said I can't reiterate this stuff enough. This shit cuts both ways.
And I will say as well, as someone assigned female at birth who is not, you know, stereotypically what people would call beautiful, we get it as well. We get, well, you should be grateful. No, I am not grateful for being violated and having someone all over me looking at me like I'm a piece of meat or something to be used and abused.
Yeah.
I have self-respect, and what I look like or what's between my legs or what gender I am has no bearing on that.
Yeah.
Excuse me, can you hear that background noise in my...
A little bit. So that's a bit. A tiny bit. It's not really loud though.
Yeah, hang on, I'll sort it.
Do you want to continue for a moment or two? Because I feel I need to actually take a moment to calm down after that in a sec. Oh, hold on, Noodles. Away from the screen. Yeah, sorry guys, I went on a bit of a fucking rant there, which I warned people I was going to. I cannot reiterate this enough. This shit cuts every which way. Okay. Harassment is harassment. Assault is assault. And this book really missed a great opportunity to address that. Even if it had just taken a panel, one panel, that for Asterix to follow up on you're being silly, Obelix, to like, here's why you're being silly.
Yeah.
One panel would have done.
Even if all Asterix would have said there of it.
No, I'm not saying that would have redeemed this entire book, but at least something positive would have come out of this.
Yeah, no. All we needed there was Asterix to say, actually, yes, I would have done that with Panacea, or for all out, you're being silly, Obelix. It doesn't matter who does it.
Yeah,
and that's all it would have taken.
Can I let you run the stream for 2 minutes? I could have just
go for it.
Take a chill for a moment. And
so he's now being summoned to answer charges, and again, we've seen this plot before, where the person doing the main harm uses a moment of anger against the victim. And Cacophonix is clearly doing his best to defend Asterix here. And she now wants to make peace with the Romans. And quite clearly this is not going well. And Cacophonix is leaving as well. And they suddenly start to question, what are we going to do without the magic potion? And she says she's going to offer them peace. While Asterix and Cacophonix leave to he's leaving with Obelix and taking Amenia with him for dogmatics. And again, that would have been a sweet little joke in any other circumstance. Hang on, apologies. Sorry about that, folks. That's timing for you. But yeah, what we're seeing here is that the men have closed up shop and are not doing anything. They have family ties to think of, and this is this is actually an interesting point that Cacophonix makes. People don't like to go to war against their families, but they are eventually going to club together. And on the coast now, the secret weapon has arrived. In the camp, there's appears to be some form of the flu going around. Some form of sickness, which again, common in Roman camps, but probably more serious than that. So off we go. The Romans are being left, and in the forest, separating the village from the Roman camp, the men are they're having a feast. They're But they're still, and again, they're still watching the village and still trying to defend the village, even though they're not in it at this point. And here we go. This is the secret weapon, a legion of women. Who apparently can't follow a simple order to disembark in an orderly fashion, which is only the beginnings of the issues of this legion. And we have our centurion here, who is, as I said, there seem to be three kinds of women. I'm sure I said this before in Asterix. There's the pretty one, there's Trunchbull, and there's we have our new one. There's the old one, the housewife. And they seem to fit this stereotype. And even the legionaries again. So this, in a way, this is kind of showing that the sexism is the same on both sides.
Sorry about that, Noodle. I got a bit triggered by that whole.
Yeah.
I went off on a tirade there and needed to take a couple of minutes. So
yeah, no, absolutely fine. That's why I carried on, but I did wait till you got back, so you.
Okay, so we're at the point I see where we got. Let me get to the female legionaries have arrived. Is that correct?
Yeah. And I was just saying, it does kind of show that the sexism is the same on both sides.
Yeah.
You know, so it's. But these female legionaries are well trained.
You got the centurion, who's, like you said, the trunchable type. All the other women are the, pretty blonde Xena warrior princess type,
Yeah, and then
blonde or brunette, but basically yeah. They
so the Romans are fighting each other, and the women have given the male Romans a bit of a
hiding. Yeah. And I think they've we get to the sort of point here that what's the point? What is the point of this? Like, we go a few panels later, and it was because we've heard this a couple of times now. You probably covered it. The Gaulish gallantry kind of thing. Their concepts of being gallant. They won't fight. Basically, these Gaulish men will not fight these women.
Yeah, this is the theory. Which the theory holds so far, because these men have allowed themselves to be driven out of their homes by this.
Yeah.
So the theory does hold.
Yeah.
So the soldiers confined to barracks to keep the secret, and Asterix and Obelix, not quite sure what Gaulish gallantry is. So we will see.
We'll see. He's. I gotta say, as much as I love Obelix as a character, he is not portrayed well, and he does not come well off good in this book at all.
No, and I will say this comment that's here. It does set up a very interesting debate of what's your honor worth to you. And what even is honor, and there is a good discussion to be had there around. Is honor just blindly saying I'm not going to fight against anyone of a set demographic? Or is honor actually looking at a situation and making a decision?
So they Asterix goes to warn the chief, and then they have the whole they get the stubbornness here.
Pride,
the ego, the stubbornness, the pride. It's kind of a common trope within a lot of TV, films, or books, and actually, it is something that can often be the case in real life when the couples have had a bust up and they won't go. No one wants to be the one to admit they were wrong and go back and build the bridge first. They think I'm going to come crawling back, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so, when you say a volunteer, guess who gets volunteered? Asterix and Obelix, the bachelors in the village. surprised actually they could have sent Cacophonix. I don't think he's portrayed as having a wife in this. So
I don't think he is. No.
Yeah, but Asterix, but it is an Asterix book, so it's got to be Asterix and Obelix, isn't it? Really.
So we've got the kid, and the kids.
Yeah.
The children aren't having lessons anymore, so the children are being allowed to run riot. And the women are at school.
Yeah, having a goddamn fashion show.
Having a fashion show.
This is... Go, Noodle. Just go.
I did.
Just fucking go. Before I do.
This idea that if you leave women alone, that they're just going to default to going on about fashion and are going to leave the kids to run riot and everything's going to fall apart.
Yeah.
Is bullshit. Okay, it's utter bollocks. Right? Women are just as capable of running a village or a state or doing anything a man can do. And I am using that very binary gendered language because this is what we're talking about. Yeah. But, you know, so I don't mean any disrespect to anyone who's non-binary. It's just, yeah, this is what we're talking about right now.
Oh, but Ring, can I just address? I just noticed what Ring put in the chat. Nothing to do with what you were saying. It was just I got wound up by the whole few panels of this. Yeah. To be honest, I think I've been that I read this a couple of weeks ago. Okay, for a first time. Noodle, I think only you glanced at it yesterday, and you had a proper read through this morning, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
I read it again today. I've been holding it in a lot longer than Noodle, and I think it came out. My fucking frustrations with this,
and rightly so, because this is just. This entire book is a straw man, and it really, really pisses me off that this is aimed at children, because this is likely, given the age it's aimed at, this is likely to be a child's first interaction with feminism and feminist ideas,
women's
and the idea of women's liberation, and that it's such a horrible representation, that it's so biased and so dated and the more you think about it, the worse it gets. When you start to think about it,
like you said, this was 1991. Okay, this shit would have been outdated in the 60s, quite frankly.
Exactly. So there isn't even the defense of it's of its time, which we've had previously, and rightly so. This is just
Durzo may have been of that time, but I still this is.
Okay,
and do you know the problem? The big passive problem I have with this is, despite the fact that we've seen he can be a reactionary on service, we've also seen in this that he can do some damn good satire and some damn good takes on things.
But this isn't satire.
But this isn't. This isn't even satire. This is maybe he genuinely thinks that this is what women's libbers were like. Maybe that's what he genuinely thought, but. It is, as you say, it is a total fucking straw man.
It is. Right, I'm going to go off on one for a second, okay?
Okay.
My dad is born in the late 50s, okay? Pretty stereotypical boomer, working class stereotypical boomer bloke. But do you know what? I bet if I showed this to my dad, he'd flip. Because even he, and this is why you passed that comment about, Adurzo is of the time and therefore, no. You have a duty as a human being to grow within the society you live in. Okay, I was the kid who was taught how to cook and how to change a car tire. I was the kid who was taught politics and embroidery. Okay, because my parents realized that I was growing up in a time that was different to the time they grew up in. And they realized that I would need these skills. And as my parents put it, you're never going to be one of those women who can't look after herself. Okay. Now, the fact that this essentially takes that, and that in itself was a toxic comment for me to grow up with, but it had a point, and there was a very good attempt to try and set me up in a positive position. And they did what they could with what they knew. Neither of them came from particularly progressive backgrounds. But the point of this is that this is taking that idea that I was taught positively as you have the capacity to learn, so learn. And he's saying these women didn't. These women are essentially, they're being presented that it's being presented that all women, be they housewives, young women, older women, are essentially, and I'm going to use the word bimbos. And they're not, okay? And when I say women, I mean assigned female at birth. In this particular situation.
Yeah, I was saying, if we are using binary really, language, it's because
we are using a lot of binary language.
This book deals in binaries, to be honest.
This book is very binary. Now, that's not how human beings work. Even from a basic evolutionary survival standpoint, okay, if all assigned male at birth people drop dead tomorrow, the world would not devolve into fashion shows because we would have to survive.
Yes.
And we would adapt to survive because that's what human beings do.
This is almost,
and the fact that this is even in question in this book, even for the 90s, is unacceptable. It really is absolutely unacceptable. There is no reason whatsoever for this. We're talking about an era. Okay, God help me, I'm going to use her as an example. Yeah. We're talking about an era after Britain has had a female prime minister. We know women can do politics.
Mm.
Okay. We know women can be in high, in high flying jobs.
Like, this is after, this is after this woman had resigned as our prime minister. This
is after Margaret Thatcher. This is after the suffragette movement. This is after the 1970s equality movement. This is after the civil rights movement in America.
This is after Pakistan had a female prime minister.
This is at this point. This is after the fall of the Berlin Wall. We're not talking about a time long ago. We're talking about the early years, but the earlier it's of what we would call the modernity of the current era, which most historians will say the current era, in sort of relative to the rest of modern history, anything after sort of the big change, the two changing points in that kind of era were the fall of the Berlin Wall altered everything. It altered the entire dynamic of how the world worked. And then 9/11 came along later. So we're talking about that time in between the fall of the Berlin Wall and 9/11. Now, that time was not the Dark Ages. Okay, it had its issues. My God, it had its issues. But it was not the Dark Ages, and it was not a time when this should have been acceptable. It was not. Even I can imagine I was born in that time. I was born after this book came out. But even as a kid, I would have not been happy with this book. And it's just it is well beyond the pale.
I mean,
and I think I've run out of steam now.
Okay, I'll try and pick up the plot a bit then, because there's going to be more. I'm just going to say we're probably not done with the rants yet, either of us.
No, we're not.
So Asterix explains the problem. So facing those women legionaries, we men are helpless, and then you get this from bravura, I know someone who wasn't always so scrupulous.
Yeah.
It's. But okay, so she says, basically, let's go out there. I will go out there and face these Roman matrons, woman to woman, and talk peace.
Yeah. And then we see a bit of a softening of Impedimenta, where she sends clause for vital statistics, and she's still worried about him. She still cares about him. So quite clearly, these women aren't as on board with New Bard as they think they are.
Yeah. And then you see all the women.
Yeah.
They are all concerned about the men. There's two ways you can maybe look at this. on one hand, now the charitable interpretation would be they realize, you maybe there's a realization going on that you kind of, men and women need one another. Although either way, I think this might come across because of this book, because I'm not inclined to be charitable to Uderzo at this point, is the women realize they can't, they are kind of coming crawling back to the men because
sentimental women. Yeah. I am inclined, as AFAB myself, I'm inclined to say that's my language of apology. Like if I fuck up, if I screw up, my language of apology is I'll cook dinner tonight, I'll do this, I'll do, that's my language of apology, kind of, because, we all have our pride, but we all care about, and that's, again, something I grew up with. My parents, again, as an example, as any couple had their bust-ups. My mum's one line in the sand was, I don't care how badly we're arguing, how much we're fighting or anything else, I will cook dinner and you will eat it. I do not use food as a weapon in this house. I do not use the well-being of the people in this house as a weapon. So you can take it both ways. I prefer to take it that way because that's the example I have. But in this book, I'm not convinced that's how it was intended.
We've said this before, that it's difficult to give this guy charity with some of the stuff he's done. In this book in particular, it's damn near impossible to give him any charity whatsoever with this.
Yeah, and he takes a lot of liberties, and he even takes things that should be positive, like this. This is a perfect example. It should be a positive thing of, when you love someone, it doesn't matter how much you're arguing, you still care about them, and turns it and twists it. And it's
I'll say something about like this, that whole thing when we come to summing up, because I've got words to say, but we get to now. He's got the camp out that's been outside the main camp where the women are camped, and even now it's like.
Okay, just one thing as well. Roman camps were not sex segregated. The Roman legions, when they travelled, would have had auxiliaries, wives, daughters travelling with them. They weren't segregated, and the women weren't sent outside the camp. What kind of stupid strategy is that? I know we're going to send our most vulnerable people who aren't actually taught to fight and are just here to carry the water and to keep the men company, and we're going to put them outside our protection, because that makes perfect fucking sense.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. This is complete and utter nonsense. If anything, they would have been left in the middle of where the
tent there, that goddamn thing with the tent,
and they can't even even the ruffles on the tents. Like, why does it? Oh,
they've got to be pretty pink, flowery designs on the fucking tent.
And I just, honestly, I have seen clothes from like 70s that didn't look that garish. What's even going on with that?
It's a fast dye guaranteed not to run in the wash.
Why you're at war? You
get this one comment from one of the male legionaries that I tell you, I wouldn't even mind being a domesticus over in that camp servant.
Yeah, and this is the thing. This is that he wants an in so he can see the women and he can look at the women.
Yeah,
and it's predatory, is what it is. I wouldn't mind being her skivvy as long as I could get a look at her skivvies, is what's going on with this comment.
Exactly.
And it's predatory, and it just goes to show that they're all
okay.
Yeah, okay.
Moving on. So she goes out to meet the Romans, shake hands. She gets a smack in the face for her trouble.
Oh, I can't say. Neither of them come out of that one particularly well, do they?
Yeah. That Roman sister isn't very gallant, says Obelix. You said it. The guy comes out. What are you doing here, Gaulish woman? Come to offer a peace between Rome and the indomitable Gauls, and this is the welcome I get.
Yeah, and I mean, what do you expect?
Very much told. we're not interested in peace. You know, it's not the
Yeah. So essentially, what she's being told here is there is no peace on offer. Surrender.
Basically, unconditional surrender is the only
peace you're going to get. And so she gives him a slap.
Yeah. Well, when he says, it's the women who want peace. I want no truck with your peace proposals, woman. The village will be destroyed, and the people will spend their days chaining in the Selenium, which is a prison in Rome.
Yeah, it's the prison supposedly that Vercingetorix died in.
Yeah.
So
she gives
it's
and
the equivalent of that threat. Let's say it would be. What's the equivalent of that threat? I'm trying to think of a not particularly explosive example. It's probably the equivalent of someone walking up to an American camp in somewhere like Afghanistan or Iraq and trying to broker peace and being told, the only peace you're getting is the lot of you in Bagram prison or in
Guantanamo or whatever the hell. Yeah.
Exactly, and Robert, we have commented on this. No, it's not. We have well commented on this, and we're going to continue to comment on it. The way she smacks him one, it wasn't appropriate.
I think Robert. To be fair, first I've seen Robert in the chat, so Robert may not have seen what we talked about earlier with this book.
This book is it's Asterix and Obelix do toxic masculinity.
Yeah. So anyway, Asterix goes and speaks with her on the way back to there and says, "Want to make you like a proposition." So they come to some sort of an agreement.
Yeah.
And then you get back to the camp, and it's like
the men are assuming Asterix and Perry are
childishness now, just sheer. Oh, there goes another bachelor. It was bound to happen someday.
And he's cooked up a plan, and the thing is, what annoys me about
this isn't the first book, is it? But I've been commenting on Asterix being a bachelor. It's been commented on.
Yeah, it's actually vicious. And I will say in this one as well, the fact that they think after she sexually assaulted him that he would get into a relationship with her is gross.
Yeah.
Sorry, Robert. No, this entire book is just, you don't have to leave. Sorry, it's just this entire book is getting us both het up.
Yeah, we are. I would say we are approaching the end of this one, and at this point, it can't come soon enough. With all honesty, this is probably this has just been a horrible read. But there,
and then you've got the so here we go, and like even the frigging shields have got daisies on them, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, then you get to the fact that the patrols go into the. Now it's just what we're just gonna get now is just a barrage of sexist things about women coming up now.
Yeah. So Cacophonix
sings that brings the rain, like he tends to do when he sings. Oh no, the girl, these poor little girls here, they don't want to be out in the, they run away from a little bit of rain.
Yeah.
At this point, Uderzo, I grew up on your work. Okay, Albert Uderzo, I know you're not, well, he's not around for me to say this to him anymore, but I grew up on his work. I love a lot of it. I genuinely do. But at this fucking point, to you, quite frankly, it's getting that bad in this book.
Yeah. So, I mean, the sound he made there, yes, I would. This joke I can take as they thought it was a dragon coming and all the animals came out. I can take that, but the fact that they're scared of the rain pisses me off. It's that, oh, my hair, my nails. No.
And then they do it to the next
patrol. They don't give a damn about the rain.
To be fair, there does seem to be a bear running with them in the next one, unless they come running out.
This one here, even the owls are swearing at the weather.
I do like the fact Obelix, that was the last ball. We're in the forest. I can't even cook it because the rain keeps put. Okay, this is what I mean. There is maybe the odd little tiny little joke where you get a chuckle in this book, but there's not enough in this to make it redeeming. But so now we get the thing. Asterix and Obelix go to the camp of the women legionnaires. Be gallant, understand Obelix. So he just breaks her pilum.
Pilum and moves her to one side. Okay.
Yeah.
That's fairly typical. I don't like this one, the way she's drawn here. This is a callback to a lot of cartoons that took the piss out of women's lib. The way she's being held there, kicking and screaming.
Yeah.
It's infantilizing, and it's
almost the whole. It's almost like you could almost see him saying, "Quiet, or I'll put you over my knee."
Yeah, calm down.
This is what you. I think you know that is almost what I was almost half expecting this.
Yeah. So.
You know, predictably, we welcome you, ladies, to our village. We'll respect you. So the woman who's the centurion here, we will crush your village. In that case, so they
so they
go running away. The women, they got to call Cacophonix tied up there, but the women are brought through the forest. They're going through the forest to the village.
Yep, and Caesar will ask me, "What you, son?" And I will say, "I came, I saw, I conquered." And he'll make me a senator.
Show these Gaulish barbarians the true strength of the Roman legions, their ability to fight with order and discipline. Charge! Yeah. They go in there. Oh my fucking boy! This doesn't get any better, does it?
Again, with the these are professional soldiers. They're not going to be distracted by a trade fortnight.
Shopping.
Lingerie.
Jewelry, lingerie.
Yeah, it's
that's enough to. This fucking.
I should point out, if I'm in the middle of a war and my orders and my objective are to kill you, I'm not going to be distracted by something shiny. Okay, I have the mental capacity exceeding an excitable puppy. It bleeds through the infantilization of these women, the utter disdain for the possibility that any woman could have a modicum of intelligence, or a modicum of self-respect is just. This is very much. This whole book just screams, "Get back in the kitchen."
Get back in the kitchen. Women can't be soldiers.
Women can't be soldiers. Women can't be traders. Women can't do anything men can do. Women have their place, and it's in the kitchen. And judging by the way they're drawn, I think he thinks women's place is in the kitchen and the bedroom, and that's about it. Because frankly, the way they're drawn at this point is becoming grating.
It's sexual. The Roman legionaries here are just always really sexualized as well.
Yeah, and if any person was actually shaped like that, they would have had to have had like multiple ribs removed, and they would be tottering. They would look at that. That's top heavy. They'd be falling over all over the shop. That's not the body of a soldier. Okay, at best in history, we might see evidence of that in part of the Victorian era, where it was the fashion, but they were physically having ribs surgically removed to look like that.
Yeah, I mean,
this is not a healthy look for any human being, even cartoonishly.
Let's be honest, those Victorian corsets were not exactly known for their comfort levels.
No, they weren't. Or for being out. There's a reason smelling salts were so popular in Victorian England, and it's because women were passing out left, right, and centre wearing those damn corsets.
Yeah.
And then this. What is this? Hair and nails. Look, I am all for getting my hair done and my nails and getting a pedicure once in a while. That's just basic self-care. Okay.
Yeah.
Buying perfume, yeah, but not in the middle of a fucking war.
And it's also, it's you know, let's point something else out here as well. Men can be just as fucking vain about their appearance as women, okay, if not more so at times.
And the
this
thing
is what
as
the
well,
whole thing. This is what it is here. It is women. Yeah. Basically, it is reinforcing. This is what women are like. They're more concerned about their looks.
Of this. This is meant to be the middle of a battle.
Yeah.
If anyone walked away from a battle for something as vapid as this in real life, they'd be held up on charges of going AWOL.
I get the. I mean, I get the fact that maybe there was some sort of taboos about depicting violence, you know, a certain amount of violence between women. Okay, in this, but they've already crossed that border in this book already. Because
it's crossed that line. Throwing punches.
We've had a man hitting a woman in this book. Why couldn't they just let the women have a fight at the end of this? Cook the magic potion up for the women.
Women hitting each other.
That would have been better than this shit.
And at least if we'd have seen a war between them, an actual battle, we could have said, okay, you know, it would have redeemed it, because it would have been, well, at least the women are putting up a fight.
I think I just realised looking at the time, we're going to have to try and get to the end of this. We really are.
Yeah, so anyway,
okay, so the women
are running for cheap handbags.
They're busy. They're too busy shopping. So the men now, the ghoulish men, the magic potion is going to be done up so they can go after the Roman male legionaries.
And seriously, I cannot emphasize enough that disobeying direct orders in the middle of a battle is grounds to get a bullet put through your head.
We're talking about Rome as well here. I mean, decimation was a thing here. Okay,
decimation was a thing.
But I like, you know, he's going there. Look here, you know, he says those cowardly Gauls have abandoned their village. It's full of their women folk lurking around with those, you know. It put whatever slur you want in that. Insert slur with those swear words. And then okay, so they're coming. So basically, the men come in. The bit usual thing with what happens here, the Romans getting the crap kicked out of them.
So the male Romans are appearing, and Obelix is doing his usual.
Doing his usual, trying to get some of the potion.
Yeah.
So raise the alarm. Sorry, I'm probably a couple of panels ahead here. Let's see where you are. Yes, I am. I'm kind of trying to get to the end of this, because I'd like to try and finish on.
This is a nice joke here. I'd have expected you to flatten the Roman camp completely, and then it collapses. It's a nice visual joke.
That's fairly funny. That's fairly
funny. That's classic comedy. That's classic slapstick comedy.
This is the thing. I'd have found that joke funny if it probably isn't this point in the book. I was already so turned off by this book.
Yeah, dead set against it.
So they go charging in. So it's the usual big fight at the end.
Yeah.
And then we just got to get it one more bloody time, don't we? The Roman women have finished their shopping.
Yeah.
All going away with their. They get Cacophonix to sink, so they all start running through the forest because they're afraid of getting wet.
Yes, because they're afraid of getting their hair wet because they've just had their hair done. What?
And they go charging off back to Rome.
This is quite nice. This is a funny joke of the dragon appearing. I knew there was one in there somewhere. This is quite funny.
I knew there was because they said I'm sure there was a dragon in there somewhere. Yeah.
And then very dragon to be running as well. And then dragon jumps on the ship. One of the Romans who I think's taken a kick in there. And this one's lisp is because he's taken a smack to the face. We do see it earlier.
And that's true what Robert's put in the chat as well. says, I would say that no woman could ever be distracted by some things. Even men stop fighting to plunder the enemy. That's, I mean, you look at the history of war, that was thing, you know.
Yeah, but there is a difference between pocketing a few gold coins or a gold plate and stopping fighting entirely to have your nails done.
Well, this isn't. Yeah, I mean, that's not the point Robert's trying to make. But
no, exactly.
You know,
no, I know exactly what point you're making, and I think we're making the same point, just in different ways.
This was, I mean, this was all. This has been a problem historically. Sometimes with maintaining discipline, in army situations, because I mean, there's some famous stories from the English Civil War or whatever with I forget which battle it was, but the Royalist cavalry just completely, you know, took the parliamentary cavalry out of the equation.
Yeah,
rather than returning to help finish the battle, they took themselves out of the equation as well, because they got more interested in looting the baggage train.
Yeah. And we see it throughout history. It was commonly in the Crusades. People didn't join the Crusades because they gave a damn about the Holy Grail or anything. They joined the Crusades for the looting opportunities.
Yeah.
You could make your fortune at war by looting. And that was a fact of war right through until pretty much the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah.
That was a fact of war. But we're not talking about looting in this situation. We're talking about the utter lack of discipline that meant that the minute they stepped through and they saw something pretty, they completely forgot.
They forgot what they were. Oh, let's go shopping.
Yeah.
Okay, so we get the whole reunion of the men and the women, and Impedimenta gives the shield back to him. It's
a kid's book, so of course it's going to be.
They shake hands. Then there's a thing in Rome as I think things have gotten around Rome about this, and everyone's having a laugh at Caesar because the you know, and then Caesar
tried to use women as legionaries. What was he thinking?
Yeah, I'm going to pack my bags. I'm going to the country for a while. So he's almost doing the same thing as the men in here, like, I'm going to live in the forest.
Yeah.
And we have the final panel. Final happy celebration, return of domestic peace and general goodwill. The traditional banquet held in the middle of the village. Brother and all the Gaulish women are guests of honor. Even Cacophonix is invited on certain conditions. So, you know, do you like it in our village? Yeah, but I'm going back to Leticia soon, and taking Cacophonix to introduce it, you know, to the great, you know, Letitian impresario. And right at the end here, the two kids.
Which is kind of sweet. It's kind of sweet.
Me too. Then I can't wait till I've grown up and join in. Me too. And the girl saying, "I'll be your chief."
Yeah.
I mean, it's a
bit too little, too late.
Bad book. It's not enough. It's not enough to redeem this book, in my opinion.
It's not.
So that, everyone, was Asterix and the Secret Weapon. Of all the books we've covered, this is the worst.
This is the worst.
This is the fucking worst by a mile. I was not looking forward to this. I think we both let.
Yeah, we've both let rip on this one. And to be fair, I've been holding back because, But I will say you are right. In real life, it could have worked, Robert, because the Gauls would refuse to fight women. But I do like to think that in those circumstances, if you were truly being attacked, it wouldn't really matter.
I don't think, I think it might be.
You've got to draw a line somewhere. And it's all well and good and saying, I won't fight a woman. But if she's, you know, to give it a more modern context, if a woman out dropping bombs on you and attacking your home, you're going to fight back. you're going to defend yourself.
Let's just say in those times, taking women and children wasn't exactly a taboo either. So I don't think there would have been too much of an issue of
yeah.
Anyway, the thing is, the most disappointing thing is this book could have made a good point.
It could have been very good.
Failed on every. It could. There was opportunities here.
Yeah.
I mean, even if some of it is dated, even if some of it is would have been dated now, there could have been a point to send a good message here.
Yeah, I mean, even allowing for the fact that it's 30 years old, there were opportunities that were missed.
I mean, there's no way that you could. I often
this whole thing, I will say, Asterix slapping the bad after she kissed him, giving her a good punch. That's the one bit where I sort of went, you know what, right on, mate. Right on. I would have done a lot worse a lot sooner than he did. And he really took it until she went too far.
Yeah, this is the thing. He was sexually harassed by her. Yeah. She crossed the line into actual sexual assault territory. Okay? His reaction was very much a reflex of anger and get away from me. And he instantly felt bad about it. A good point could have been made there. And I went off on the tirade about it earlier.
Yeah,
it could have been made.
I don't think it was a tirade. I think it was a very well said piece there, Scummer. And I will say, for me as well, had someone done that to me in real life, and I assure you I've done this, the last person who harassed me for any length of time and did that got my fist in their face. I am not even joking. I was a student in university. I'd been drinking all night in a nightclub, and the guy had been on me all night long. I hit him so hard, I knocked him flat.
But
the bouncer's response was to say, "Do you want me to ring you a taxi, love?" Because he knew full well that there was no way. This lad was yelling and screaming about, "Oh, ring the police, she's hit me." And the bouncer looked at him and said, "Do you really want to ring the police and tell them how you've been talking to her all night? Do you really want to have that conversation?" It's one of those things where I'm a great believer in. I don't care whether you're a man or a woman. If you're harassing me, if you are touching me inappropriately, and I will say I didn't lay hands on the guy until he laid hands on me, but if you are touching me inappropriately, no holds barred. Like, I will sing for you. And that's what Asterix did. He didn't lay a hand on her until she moved first. And she'd already slapped him on the ass once.
And he had made it very clear, no.
That I wasn't interested.
No means no. But this was what I mean. This book, it failed on that. It failed on something that there could have been a very good point made about no means no. That could have been a very good point. They failed on it because they did the whole thing of
Asterix apologising because she's a woman. I don't think that should have been done at all.
I had less of a problem with that than that little comment by Obelix.
Yeah, the comment by Obelix you'd like it if it was a pretty woman.
Yeah, that was
that was beyond the pale.
That was that, and there was a moment, even when that was said, where there could have been a moment where you could have Asterix, even if it was a panel, to just say no means no. It doesn't matter if if you're pretty, ugly, whatever. It could
to be fair to it, that's kind of what Asterix was saying when he said, "Don't be silly, Obelix."
Yeah, but it
didn't go far enough.
It didn't need to be expanded on.
Yeah.
It absolutely built, as we said a number of times, it's built a total straw man of women's lib and feminism. And this is the first time I could honestly say that I would not recommend ever giving this book to a kid.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a great believer in there's a great story that you hear in various iterations that says essentially when you have a bad example of something, you can learn as much from a bad example as a good example, but the level of commentary required to make this book an educational piece for a young child who does not have the context of the history of feminism already, I would not recommend it to anyone but a trained teacher. I would say do not show your children this book.
Yeah, this one's...
Even I would be wary of showing some adults this book.
I mean, we've talked about it before, that even with some of the like racist caricatures, you can sit down and talk with kids about some of the history of French colonialism and stuff,
and make it age appropriate.
And make it this. There's not enough in this that I feel that I would ever recommend this particular book.
Yeah, and the problem is there's been
bad message out.
And the problem is there's been dozens of books where we've been taught to like these characters and develop a relationship with them. And therefore, it's going to be very difficult to explain to a child why these characters are wrong. Especially when they're presented as being in the right.
This is the 29th book in this series. Let's be clear about it. This is the 29th book. We're 29 books in here.
If this had been book number 3 or book number 2, when we didn't know these characters that well and we're still figuring them out, and are they all they're cracked up to be, I could almost say it might be easier to have that discussion.
It might have been easier to swallow. It still wouldn't have been great, but
we could have seen a growing arc throughout the book.
We had a, and
we could have said they grew up, but they haven't.
And what we had here was character who is supposed to stand for women's liberation, who you are instantly conditioned to dislike.
Yeah, and I will say as well, we have joked about in the past vital statistics being a henpecked husband. The way the women are drawn in certain ways to make them appear in certain ways, and it's cartoon shorthand. We've shared in those jokes, even though they did have an undercurrent of sexism to them. They were gentle. They were a bit of gentle ribbing, as common in the Asterix. This was just malicious.
This was beating you over the head with it. This was beating the reader over the head with misogyny in this one.
It just is it any wonder? I can understand now why young boys, because let's be honest, comic books are largely targeted at young boys, are reading this and going into the playground and chasing girls and pulling their pigtails and excluding them. I can see where it comes from. If this is the kind of media young boys are exposed to.
This is
and it's really not.
I think I've said all I can say on this book, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I could keep running. I'm just going to keep repeating myself.
I think we need to wrap up for it. Well, we're going to be on Rings shortly, and that if you need a palate cleanser after this, I think Rings. I might have one or two things to say about the thing we're covering, but this should be a bit of a palate cleanser.
Yeah.
That may be very well needed after this one. It's certainly going to be needed for us, I think.
We're going to need it. We need something to just chill out and have a
we're
going to be
talking. I think Ip Man. We're talking Chinese martial arts films.
Yeah, Ip Man. So yes, it is Ip Man. It's not IP Man. So my apologies to Ring for yesterday on the D&D thing. I mistook it for another film entirely, which I only realised when I watched this last night. But yeah, Ip Man, or otherwise known as Yip Man, apparently.
We can get into that on that stream.
We'll get into that.
We can get onto that on this stream.
So we'll have that discussion over there. So come over and join us. That's on Ring's channel. I presume they'll be starting within the next 10 or 15 minutes. They usually do.
Yeah.
If Ring wants to drop a link in the chat, that would be much appreciated.
I think Ring has dropped the link.
Yep. So
it might not have shown up on your StreamYards yet. That's all, but
yeah, Kung Fu Palette Cleanser right there. So come and join us. If nothing else, hopefully we won't be ranting and raving so much.
Yeah. Okay, doke.
and we'll be able to have a bit of a palate cleanser and a laugh over there. Anything you want to plug before we sign off?
Yeah, I've got nothing actually scheduled other than whatever the Asterix stream is going to be next week, which we hope is going to be a lot more lighthearted than this one, because we do these because you generally like a lighthearted thing.
Yeah.
This one has been like 2 hours of us fucking ranting about the shit in this book.
Yeah. Is Asterix and Obelix all at sea?
I haven't read it, this one. Well, I will say one thing. If it is controversial, it's about time one of them landed on my fucking channel, because Noodle always seems to get the controversial books.
Yeah, I do see it. I will say,
and I got to say, I did, because I'd never read this one until a couple of weeks ago. I didn't know this was going to be a controversial book.
Fair.
But this has been the worst of them all so far. Even some of the things like the Great Crossing and as bad as that was, overall is not as bad as this.
Yeah, because this one was unrelenting, whereas that one at least you got
this. You said it at the beginning. Immediately, it's turned up to 100, and it doesn't stop all the way through this book.
But yeah, Asterix and Obelix all at sea, which from a quick cursory glance at the Wikipedia page appears to be a Spartacus parody.
Okay, that sounds like it might be a bit more fun.
A bit more fun, at least from a historical point of view.
We hope.
I'm expecting a lot of pirates, but other than that, we'll see. Because obviously Spartacus and the ships, but we'll see how that goes. As for plugging from me, I have Ko-fi, I have Redbubble. So please have a look if you've got the spare cash. I am looking to start with my gaming streams. I've been saying this for a couple of weeks, but my Mondays have just been really weird for the last few weeks. I've not had the Mondays I normally have. Once I start them, it will be Mondays, Monday afternoons, probably evening time, UK time. And it's going to be, I'm basically going to do a playthrough of Death Stranding, a few chapters at a time. I've never played games before, so this is going to be fun.
I'll just put in something in the private chat. I don't know if you can put that in the chat for me, Noodle. That's just my Patreon if anyone is interested.
Scummer does have Patreon there.
Yeah, I've been doing some stuff on there. Fortunately, us dogs had to shoot off. I did a good one where I actually talked about the history of the boxing match between Jack Johnson and Jim Jeffries and watched the fight footage and talked a bit about the history of that and obviously the big racial overtones that came with the history of that fight, which I know I got some very good feedback on that from the patrons I've got. So I'm looking to do more stuff like that as extra content, like find like a good sort of thing that in history where I can react to if there's a YouTube video or something, or it doesn't have to be a sports thing, but something I can talk about like that. So I'm looking to do some sort of stuff like that. Okie doke.
Okay. So that's us wrapped up. Tagline, Geoff?
Tagline for this, I'm going to do a special tagline for this one. Don't buy this fucking book for your kids. It's going to be my tagline for this one.
Fair enough.
Salute.
Yep, salute. And as always from me, take care, be good. And if you can't be good, use your noodle.